Call Marty and Clay at 842-KERN or toll free at 1-800-640-KERN. Now, more of Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.
1, 2.
Let me tell you how it will be. Show me the money! There's 1 for you, 19 for me. 'Cause I'm the tax man. Yeah,
we are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180 with Cathy Abernathy. I couldn't resist that.
Well, and the tax man is coming. He's just around the corner.
Oh, you bet. Speaking of the, how about this for a segue? Speaking of the tax man, well, we were talking about pensions, or do you want to jump to the state? We can talk a little more about pensions, sir.
Well, it's just
they're hand
balloons
in hand.
up. You go to talk California state, you talk pensions, you talk public employee union control of the legislature. It's really serious. It's $25 billion minimum just on what they need to get through 18 months, let alone the unfunded pensions. Mm-hmm. And there's I don't see any end in sight. And people need to realize, and the media's already played right into it. When Jerry Brown was governor before, and I'll have to fault Meg Whitman, I don't think she could have done a nice contrast here with what he was. But when he was governor before, what do you remember? Drove a Plymouth, slept on a mattress on the floor in this dumpy apartment. That was built up early on to make you think he's tight with money, and he's going to be tight with your money. But who started us on this whole episode of incredible state and local pensions and salaries and health benefits? But Jerry Brown. He signed the bill that unionized
That's
the
right.
state of California, basically from dog catcher to all the way up to the state opening to the doors of the state legislature. By the way, the state legislature does not follow the labor code. They're exempt from it. So, all these things that go on, they've exempted themselves, but they pass it. So what you have is really a situation in Sacramento where you have a governor now saying, I've changed even more. Now I've got this wife. We stay home at night. We're going to live in an apartment near the Capitol. And the first headline that you see from him on spending is he's taking back cell phones.
Yeah, big deal, huh?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, that won't happen. But it's a headline that hits people because they understand that. They don't understand all this other talk. But you say he's cutting out their cell phones. Oh, by golly, that's great. He's really straightening up that town. And we know that's not going to ever happen. And it's and even the size and scope of it. But the point is that isn't where the problem is. No one campaigned on stopping cell phone use of state employees. Right. It was about the payment, the pension, the health benefits, and all the programs that do nothing but slow down business and slow down the business you guys are in. I mean, when people spend their money based on how to avoid more government traps that are out there, they're not doing wise things with their money.
How many businesses are leaving California? 152 in this, I guess, last year have left California.
Right, and these other states are just standing out there with a welcome mat. We have governors coming into the state to meet with businesses to take them out. I haven't seen a governor in California, or a legislature, more importantly, because the legislature almost stands there, can I open the door for you as you leave? Because they keep it up. They keep the spending programs. They keep putting up, if it's a business doing well, they got a target on their forehead because they have decided that's the way we get more of their money to run our government, and they'll figure out a way to get beyond it.
Well, Cathy, let me ask you this. Can the state technically go bankrupt?
Well, I'm told, and I'm not a constitutional expert, but those who say they are, or at least those who play one on TV, they're saying that we can't. A state can't go bankrupt. It would be the best thing. It would break all these union deals, and we may be at a point where financially... See, what the state of California was hoping for was a continued presence of an Obama purse out there just doling out the money to them. And this new Republican Congress now has just shut that down. Let's hope they stick with their commitment. I believe they will. So who do they turn to now? Well, they turn to taxes. First word out of the governor's mouth is, I want the people to approve a tax increase, and that's what he's coming up with. He's got tax increases that he wants to put on the ballot here in June. And we just had an election in November. He was supposed to, but what he's coming up with is some cuts and a whole bunch of taxes. And nobody... I don't know an economist in the world that's saying right now is a great time to raise taxes on business, except this governor.
Mm-hmm. Well, it appears everywhere where they've raised taxes, the actual revenues that the states are receiving has gone down. New York is a prime example of that. And I hate to jump so far to national because we're on state, but everywhere they raise taxes, revenues go down.
There's the states that are in debt right now are virtually almost all the states, except I'd have to say those states, everybody's revenues are down because of the economy in general. But the states that have had the benefit of more of a balanced budget are just a handful, and they are not any of the big ones right now because, again, large states, New York, Illinois, California, are dominated by public employee union bosses who run the show. The Speaker of the Assembly right now is a former union organizer, and I'm not sure I throw that word former in there, but I'm not sure how former that really is. So, they're coming into high office from that very ground of organizing and going after government elected officials to fatten the political war chest is the most important thing. That gives them the power. Less so to raise the salaries. They like to do the benefits because that's all tax-free, and they like to raise the political dues because that makes them important people.
Sure. Cathy, let me ask you about what I think is a charade that Brown's trying to pull off. Okay, so he's trying to make it look like, okay, there's going to be an initiative, and you can decide if you want to increase taxes, so you can decide what services need to be cut. So is this a shell game he's playing? It seems like it. Like he's going to be able to come back and say, well, you guys decided not to raise taxes, or you guys decided to raise taxes, and this is the result of that. Exactly.
Okay. His plan, which was supposed to be equal spending cuts and equal tax increases, is actually higher tax increases, lower spending cuts. And remember, these are proposals right now in his budget. He's saying he's going to cut $400 million from the community colleges, $500 million from the UCs and Cal State and state universities. Well, $500 million from, and I don't have at my fingertips a number of University of California and California State universities, but I think there's at least 30 plus, if not more. That's not a big cut, and I bet none of it will happen. And so you'll end up with a proposal on an initiative that's going to say we need to raise these taxes, and if you don't, I'll probably have to whack 2-3 months off the school year. Okay,
great.
And because he didn't touch K through 12 because he thinks, well, that'll make people say, oh, well, I can't live with that. I'm sorry, if that even is where he goes, I would say, Governor, nobody elected you to cut down the school year. In fact, the school year should be 11 and a half months a year.
Oh, definitely.
So, we'll do a recall. I think if he can't come up with a way to cut 50-year-old programs up there that serve nobody but the people that work at the desk, then we're going to have to take him out. Because there is no excuse to go after the children's education in this state. If we can't afford it, figure out a way to afford it, because the money, 50 cents of every education dollar stays in buildings in Sacramento. And they're not teaching anybody, and they don't help the teachers in the classroom out here. And, the point about lowering classroom size or cutting, and now we're going to raise classroom size and all that. I don't have a big problem with classroom size. I think we all are used to going to school with 30, 35. That's what I was in school with. It wasn't any big problem. But if they can't find a way with the money they've got in Sacramento to pay a teacher to open a door to take 30 kids in the room and teach them, then they're not handling their responsibility they were sworn into office for.
Definitely. Clay?
Oh, we were talking about teachers, and I'm going to have to move again, and I hate to do this to you, Marty, because I wanted to stay more California. But Governor Christie back in New Jersey is in the process of trying to change tenure and negotiate 5-year contracts with teachers. Do you happen to know anything about that or heard anything about that?
What a hero. I'd love to get that man out to California because he's really trying. He's taking on the tough job, and he's willing to do it. And, I wish we had a governor, previous or current, that would take that on. Michelle Rhee, who was the education advisor in Washington, D.C., I just read some comments she made. We have to change education, number one, by treating teachers like professionals. Okay, and that's what he's talking about. I don't know a job where you work, and it really is an average of about 18 months, and you are then judged on whether you get tenure or not. I mean, who has that kind of protection? And, I spoke to the Kern High School District once. They told me it took them 17 years to remove one teacher. I mean, It's really impossible through the system that's set up. It's such an insider's game that most of them don't pursue it because of the cost. But But Governor Christie in New Jersey is looking at an education union lobby that has crippled New Jersey. And we have just the same thing here. We may not be at quite the point they're at, but we should react now instead of later.
I think you attended the same movie I did a while back called Waiting for Superman.
Yes.
I mean, that was really an eye-opener about the problem in education.
Right. What we saw there, and I don't know how long it ran in Bakersfield, but I hope folks can get a copy of it, because it was a look, frank and open look at what happens to the poorest of quality schools when someone comes in and wants to help them, and what they have to fight. And they're not really fighting parents, they're fighting the union leaders who don't want anybody looking at their schools, no matter what their performance. And if we can't, all of us in our work know every day, we're judged, you folks are judged by, how large is your audience? Is it growing? Is it going down? If it's going down, you're out. Somebody else is in. I mean, everybody is judged. Why people in the education field think that the first hired, last hired, first fired, no matter how great of a teacher they are, why that's the right way to teach our kids? No. I think that we need to honor, my children have had some wonderful teachers, and I've told them, I'm willing to pay the wonderful teachers $100,000 a year. I have no problem with that. Let me fire the bad ones. But your union won't let me, so I can't fight for you.
Let's talk about that a little more.
We'll be back in a minute on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.